Hello, welcome back to my channel. So today I want to talk about how I used to think household chores as beneath me. And I think it's because I am neurodivergent and the way I see the world is by copying people around me. And I think ever since I was a kid, I was copying male more, maybe because I think in my brain, like that's the way, like I didn't think myself as a woman. Like, don't get me wrong, I have no intention whatsoever to be a man by any means, but gender is something that I'm not really have a strong identity with. I mean, like, I'm happy with my womanhood, but I don't identify with it as strongly as other women, probably. And I think it's probably problematic growing up. But when I was growing up, I always feel like I'm competitive against men. I don't feel competitive against women, which I think part of my huge problems socializing with women, because I feel like I can see like how women being competitive with each other, but I because I don't see myself as a woman, I don't feel the need to compete with other women. I don't know if that makes sense. So, but I always see my competition is always going to be men, and I compete with men. Not again, like I'm not mistaking myself as a man. I also understand that I will never be as strong as a man physically ever. I guess I just with I guess I'm being competitive when it comes to skills, when it comes to trying to figure things out. I guess like I'm really harsh on myself when it comes to that. So it also, and that means like also internalizing a lot of misogynistic values that men has, because I'm identifying more as a man than I am a woman in a lot of ways. So like I think because there are this underlying assumption for men anyway that chores like household chores, cleaning, cooking, doing the dishes, laundry is women's job. Then for me growing up, I always feel like that's not my job. My job is to make money, to find how to make money, and then I can pay someone else to do those chores. So in my childish ways, when I was still young and childish and arrogant and thinking I still could do it all before life knocked me over and kind of took me off the pedestal of my high horse, I used to think that household chores are beneath me. It's for people who has lower status than me. I know, controversial. I know it's wrong. Household chores is for everyone who lives in the um in the in the place that you live, and it's if you live there, you should be responsible to take care of it, right? Like it that's just the rules. Now, as a 41 years old, definitely understanding that. But I was really thinking, I think I'm just absorbing. You know that telepathic tapes that tapes that basically saying autistic kids are basically reading their caretakers' minds, mainly their mothers, because if their mothers are the one that takes care of them. And I think there's something to that. I think when I was growing up, I think I was reading a lot of people's mind, and because I was connecting more to the men, I think I'm just like absorbing their thoughts, and a lot of their thoughts are probably very misogynistic, and like thinking, these things are beneath me, without even checking, like, and maybe because I have that distorted identity, the way I'm being perceived with by the world, like I'm so blind to it. I'm still blind to it to some extent now, but I think I'm 50% better than I was when I was 10 years old, for example. I think because of that, I just never bothered to do household chores. I resent it with a passion, and mainly because I also realized that I am a woman, and therefore these household chores are being insisted on me because I'm a woman, and that sexism really didn't sit right with me, and I don't want to do it, and I didn't. And I think like at one point, I was basically sitting in this apartment for like 5 years with filth. I never vacuum it. I probably vacuum it like once a year, and I will mop it. I still like the only one thing that I keep still in my in check is dishwashing chores, because I don't see it as a chore, because I just clean as I go. Because when I was 14 years old, I got a job at Macca's and McDonald's, and I was trained to clean as you go, so you don't leave things just to be clean later. You use it, and then whether if you finish something and then it has to be clean, and then you just clean it straight away. So that kind of stuck with me. Anything I learned from a job usually stuck with me because I got paid to do it, right? Um, and yeah, so dishwashing is always usually on top of. I think the hardest bit was just like cleaning in general, like the mopping, the vacuuming. Laundry was not that bad because I actually like using the dryer in Australia, and I like the feeling of the fresh laundry out of the dryer, especially during winter. It's really delicious. Like you just want to put your face in a warm towel after it got out from the dryer. So it's just mainly like cleaning, like tidying things up, and those type of that's extremely needed to be done like weekly or routinely, and it just doesn't, like I just don't do it. Especially when people try to shove it down your throat, force you to do it just because you are a woman. It's definitely not something I want to do. But at one point something changed. Like, and cooking also. Cooking is probably a big part of it. Cooking is probably like being seen like that's a woman's job. You have to know how to cook. Like, you even label someone's not a woman if they don't know how to cook. But in my whole life experience, I probably only know like one or two people out of my whole life, 41 years old, that actually enjoy cooking as a woman. Like even my 80-year-old friends, 70-year-old friends, it's like they don't want to cook. None of them like to cook, and none of them care to cook. Like they said, well, maybe when the kids were around, when they were younger, I managed to cook, but as soon as they leave the house, I just don't want to do it anymore. I think it's so traumatizing for them. And I'm like, okay. So, hearing those stories just feel a little bit better for me, because I realize like I'm not alone in this whole saga of, having a fight, having a war against household chores. And of course, like I know like some people really like, household chores, but it doesn't have anything to do with gender. I think women in general is a lot more organized, but that's about it. Because I know like a lot of, well, not a lot, but like a few men who are so a neat freak, who just like really on top of being clean. And there are some that are just organized to an OCD level. So I feel like you just have to find those men, ladies. If you see them and they're okay and they are really good at what they do, try to persuade them to your camp. I feel like, this experience is also giving me, because like I think as I was growing up, I think the common enemy, not the common enemy, that the biggest supporter of this misogynistic behaviors are older women. So now, as someone who is not part of the system, not the system, but more like in a friendly peer to peer type of relationship, although it's not really, if you are not their age, they probably will never see you as a peer. But at least when I interact with them, it's coming from a peer to peer, like a friendship type of relationship and bond. So even though you're not really their age, so they can't really see you as their peer all the way, you still have to interact with each other as if that you are peer to peer, because you are in a public setting. So there is that, so they have to respect you in some manner. So in that way, you get a lot truthful perspective from their perspective, because if you are in a familial relationship, it's really bad because this generation is the one that is basically uh, oppressing you and into like ridiculing you for not knowing how to do something in the household chore. But at the same time, that is the same generation as well that never learned something, never learned how to um, defend themselves in the outside world, never worked for other people to support their family, always reliant on their husband, and always complaining about the whole thing, complaining about their daughters and how incompetent their daughters are. And yet at the same time, their daughters have achieved so much that they never have achieved in their own lives, and yet how dare they uh, judging these really beautiful women in their lack of accomplishment in certain areas where they themselves never achieve anything in a lot of areas of their lives. So unless you're in a familiar relationship, I think it's hard to see because you're always going to receive a judgment from the generation before you. But because I was coming from, an outside perspective, a third party perspective, and at a peer level almost, it's easier to receive like a lot more honest point of view about household chores and what how they feel about it. And I think I'm not alone actually. The older generation also don't like, the older generation are basically the same like us, like people that are 40 years old. Like they don't like the household chores as well. They do find it as a chore. And what TikTok said basically was true. A lot of this generation was on drugs and on medication. I know one person from last year where I think like they stopped taking their medication and they're becoming so sensitive about everything, and they were incapable of handling a lot of life situation. Even minor inconveniences were sending them spiraling. And I was like, oh, okay. So apparently the version of you that I've been communicating with for the past 7 8 years on a medicated version of you. Wow. And then now I realize like, oh, okay. Oh, that's how they survived. But I don't see household chores as beneath me now, as I shouldn't have, as no one of you should have. Maybe because I remember a few years ago when I stopped doing the weekly chores like mopping and cleaning and vacuuming my floor basically. And it's just like a weekly basic, like it's not as intense. It's just what's visible. Like I don't go around like behind the cabinet or taking all the content of the kitchen cabinet and cleaning all the inside. It's not like that. It's just like whatever you see, right? I'm not pulling like the chairs out or the sofa out so that I can clean underneath it. So it's not a thorough clean. It's just like whatever's visible, like the carpet and the floor. Just wipe it and just mop it. And I realized like if when I didn't do that for like 2 3 weeks, I was becoming suicidal, and then I would mop and I would vacuum, and then suddenly I wasn't suicidal anymore. And I know it sounded very dramatic, but that definitely happened. So I think from then on I associated cleanliness with mental health hygiene in some way as well. So I try to keep up with the disciplines of every week I should just do chores. And if you want to skip, you can skip one week, maybe every few months or so, but not more than that, because now I'm not associating like cleanliness and household chores with this ideal of society values. Is no longer attached to you know like as a woman I need to clean this. I'm attaching it more to like if I don't clean it I'm gonna feel suicidal, so I better clean something so I don't feel like the whole world is coming to get me and I just don't want to be part of this world. Wait, I just need to clean and mop and and that's it. um and that's like something weird because I feel I never ever attached those two together. But now It's because no one is pressuring me to do it, because I have been cut out from society from a long time, or I opted out from society from a long time now. There's no pressure to abide to the misogynistic value of people. Like, I don't have anything to rebel against, basically. Mm. Like, no one's telling me like, you're a woman, you should be ashamed that you're not doing this, you're not doing that. I'm doing it because it's affecting me mental health wise, um, and it's also making me feel good. So I'm doing it because it makes me feel good, and I'm not doing it to an extreme either. It's just like I just do it as necessary. Maybe it's like every once a year I would clean out the kitchen's cupboards, for example, the kitchen cabinets, and take out all everything inside of it and wipe wipe the cabinet, and that's about it. And sometimes I would clean the refrigerator, for example, and clean behind the refrigerator once a year or once every 2 years. And of course, like, when you do that, I always have this imagination like it's so gonna be really bad behind the fridge. It's gonna be like such a mess. It would be like this whole junk. And then you take it out and it's like, oh, it's not much. And then all you have to do basically spend 5 minutes. It's just like either vacuuming it, or you would sweep it with a broom, and then you would just mop it, and it will take like 5 minutes literally just to clean behind the fridge. It's funny how this dreaded activity that I choose not to do for years and years is could be like done within 5-10 minutes. It doesn't even take that long. um I think, like, and then you feel like, okay, I guess like it's the fear of the unknown as well. There's that. And I think like now I see in general, chore in general, not the one that will give you a headache and the one that will, you know, makes you head spins. I think those ones you need to save up money and pay someone else to do it, because even like household chores are the one that you just do periodically, often, and it's because you need to do it. Um, but I think like clean as you go is one of the best thing that I can do to maintain a little bit of sanity. And I guess like I also realized like the people that used to mock me for not being able to do household chores are actually the people who are really bad at household chores. The people that are actually making the house very dirty, but they never learn how to clean it properly. It's just like they just pretend they're cleaning and it's just for sure, so that they can show other people like I'm cleaning, but they're not really cleaning. Once I got into proper cleaning, I realized like these people don't know what they're talking about. And but I think also is have something to do with if someone never showed you how to do it properly, then it's quite difficult for you to know how to do it properly. It wasn't until YouTube that I learned how to clean a few things well, like cleaning the stove around. Before, there was a lot of like fat and grease around the stove, and I learned from YouTube how to get rid of it by using baking soda and vinegar, to get rid of the grease. And now all I have to do is just wipe it every night. It takes about 3 minutes to wipe it around, and it's fine. Like, it's still clean. And so you don't have to go and do like a major cleanup every 3 months or so. You take like 2-3 minutes out of your night and just to clean it, because it's making a habit and it's fine. And of course, like, you're always going to have times where you deep clean things and you have to like, oh, like it's basically staring in front of you and you have to organize things. Like, those things are not going to go away. Like, I will always have things that I'm just resisting towards, like a corner, a dark corner where I'm just covering it up so that I don't have to think about it right now. Like, I'm not saying like, I'm Lisa Kondo, is that her name? Like, so perfect at household chores and stuff. But at least I'm not living like a pig anymore. I'm not living like, actually, pig is probably a wrong animal, because pigs actually like to live in a very clean environment. So sorry to the pigs. But like, Yeah, I'm just not because like I remember in 2016 or something, it was such a pigsty that my friend came over, sat down for 3 seconds, and she got up again and said, "I don't think I can I don't think I can stay here." So we ended up like leaving my apartment to go and have a coffees outside because my apartment was basically so filthy, and I was living in filth and she was like, "No, no, this is not okay." Um, so yeah, I guess like in a lot of ways, like I think I do it now because it's directly attached to my mental health. I think like the minute I decided, for example, to get out of depression was the minute when I was following Jordan Peterson's advice back then. Like this was 2000, maybe 2018, when I finally kind of coming out of my stupor, coming out of my freeze response a little bit, just a little bit, not a lot, because I still suffer my freeze response even now in 2025. Back then, like Jordan Peterson was on the rise, and he's not the person he is today. But like he was still like I just listened to all his lectures from university. So there were like maybe like 7 or 8 semesters worth of his lectures. So like one semester is about maybe 10 videos, and 10 videos is about 2 hours. So I just listened to all of them. So like 80 hours for one semester and about five. So maybe around 400 hours of his videos I basically listened to nonstop. And that got through me somehow, someday. And one of the things that got through me was if you're in a state of depression and you don't know what you're doing, you're catatonic, you cannot function, just deal with what's in front of you. And what's in front of me, like, and he goes, just make your bed, make your bed. That's the first thing that you do. Take a shower. That you can do that right now. That's what you can do. And I think from then on, I started doing that. Like at maybe what 34, I started making my bed for the first time in my whole life and started living as a human being. And because there was a long period there where I was starving because I didn't have money to buy food, I have to kind of cook for myself because there was not much to cook, but I was like, I need some flavor still. So I ended up starting buying, bok choy, which is a Chinese vegetables, a lot of Chinese vegetables, and also bought uh, beans. Not like sprouts. I bring like bean sprouts, and boiling it and actually putting just a little bit of sesame oil with salt. Be back. I don't know how long we were out without any particular audio. Sorry about that. My mic died. So I did not know how much of this we had without any particular audio. So anyway, maybe it's a good sign for me to end this. And yeah, I will see you later. What was I saying? Oh, I was saying, okay, let me just finish this story. The story was when 2018, I was listening to Jordan Peterson. That basically got me out of my bed, and make forcing me to make my bed. At 34, I started to make my bed, and also I started cooking back then. So about 8 years ago, because I was starving and I didn't have anything to eat, and all I could afford was this Chinese vegetables that cost about 80 cents and 90 cents, and I could also buy like bean sprouts, and that cost about 90 cents as well. And you can buy a bag of it, and you can kind of prolong your shelf life for a bit if you cook it, and then you just put sesame oil and also salt. And that's my beginning of cooking basically, because I thought like cooking always is somewhat something that I can never learn, something complicated. But doing that makes it feel like, oh, this is quite easy, simple dishes. It requires only 3 steps and 2 ingredients, so I don't have to do anything. And from then on, it's kind of like build up that way. I guess like when I started leaning towards my autistic tendency of doing things from bottom up, it was a lot easier with household chores as well. It's like, yeah, I can't do clean, I can't mop the whole apartment today, so I'm just gonna vacuum my room today. And it's just a small, tiny thing. So it just started to become a habit and doing it small in batches, and that makes it easier. And that's how I got out from the whole idea that, household chore is beneath me, into household chore is something that is there to maintain my sanity and my mental health, and it is there to provide for me emotional regulation. Yeah, I'm gonna conclude that there. So hopefully, the mic didn't turn off for too long. And yeah, anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for listening to me so far. I'm sorry about the mic mishap just now, and I will see you later. I'm Valerie. I'm a solo digital creator, a solopreneur. If you want to check out my works, you can check out the description box and check out all the links. Bye, everyone.